Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope everyone's doing well. So welcome back to the channel first of all. Today what I'm going to do is yet another chapter of my existing CD collection. So just talking about the CDs in the collection. That's what the last consecutive 3 or 4 videos have been about. So I'm just going to continue that for now. The next video will be about black metal vinyl. But yeah, this is just sort of rounding up some loose ends in the alphabet, because in the next existing CD collection video, I'll be doing something special that I've been looking forward to for a long time about a big band and a big discography. So looking forward to doing that. But today, this existing CD collection video is just tying up some loose ends. So in the last video, you'll recall I talked about my Judas Priest collection. So that concludes the J's in the CDs. So now we're up to the letter K, and I have 5 CDs and 3 bands to talk about. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so the first band I'm going to be talking about today, I own 3 albums by this band, and it is of course KATAKLYSM. And this album is called In the Arms of Devastation. I wasn't sure if it was in or into. So KATAKLYSM may not need an introduction to most people, but if you're not familiar, they are a death metal band from Canada, French-Canadian band from Montreal. And they've actually been around since the early 90s, but the style has changed significantly over the years. So I by no means own all of their albums, I only own 3, and the style has changed significantly. So when they first started, they began as very sort of fast, brutal, technical death metal, which earned them a sort of stylistic pigeonhole known as Northern Hyperblast, because they're from Canada. And so in those days, the music was a lot faster and more technical, but over the years they shifted into a sort of a more groove-oriented direction, and that started happening around about the year 2000, and you know, with albums like Shadows and Dust and so on, and that sort of defines the style they have today. So yeah, I have a friend who really likes a lot of their music, so I got a couple of tapes of some older albums. Like, I like Shadows and Dust. Also, what's that other one? My favorite, Serenity and Fire, brilliant album. I don't actually own that on CD, but if I see it, I'll pick it up. But yeah, this one is In the Arms of Devastation. It came out in the year 2006, so this is continuing in that groove-oriented, melodic style of death metal. And I'm just going to consult my notes here. So yeah, that's what sort of defines the band's sound now. It's very hooky, catchy, melodic, and heavy. So for that reason, you could say albums like this one, you know, from post-2000 albums by KATAKLYSM, it could be good entry-level death metal for people who don't know anything about death metal and were perhaps looking to get into it, because it's very groovy and catchy. So some people might say, oh, does that mean it's commercial or seller? Not really, it's just catchy. So music doesn't have to be technical in order to be, you know, worthy of approval, in my opinion. This is absolutely brilliant. I really like it. So what you have on this album is basically a collection of fast riffs which are catchy and melodic, with a lot of chugging riffs and double bass drumming, and there's a lot of slow breakdowns too, sort of, you know, mosh-worthy breakdowns. So I know some people don't like those slow parts in the music, but there's just so much groove and heaviness that is really fantastic on this album. And the vocals, they're basically low and guttural in that standard death metal style, but sometimes they shift to high-pitched shrieks as well. So yeah, the vocals are great, and just the way everything gels together on this album, it's very tightly executed and precisely played, and like the drumming is just phenomenal, holding it all together. But there's melody underpinning the brutality, and there's so much catchiness, so it's just heavy, catchy, fantastic stuff. So on this album, there's 9 tracks, and believe it or not, the majority of them are my favorites. So we'll just go through those. So once again, I'm going to look at the booklet because I can't see shit on the back of this. The first track is entitled Like Angels Weeping the Dawn. Great call to battle to commence the album, and just really heavy, brutal riff. And I love, after the chorus, the singer bellows, yeah, like as a kind of exclamation mark at the end of the message of that chorus, which is really cool. Track 2, Let Them Burn, is one of my favorites. Like, if you're familiar with that song, you'll know it's very hooky and catchy, especially like the vocal patterns in the chorus. And just the melody, it's just absolutely brilliant. So Let Them Burn would be one of my favorites for sure. Then the next track, Crippled and Broken, another very heavy, groovy, catchy track. And just the main riff in that, in the chorus, like when the vocals go over and say crippled and broken, it's just extremely mosh-worthy, heavy, catchy stuff. Absolutely fantastic. And What do we have after that? As another favorite, I'm not going to read all of them. Yeah, Terrain again is another one, just very sing-along, catchy, anthemic chorus, which is fantastic. Okay, now one of my favorite tracks on the album is actually Open Scars, which is just extremely melodic, heavy and catchy, but just if you're familiar with that song, you'll know that the chorus is very hooky, just with the drumming underpinning the melody, which is like just blast beats basically, but the vocal patterns are extremely catchy, so even if you haven't heard that song before, you'll be singing along, and the melody just reels you in. So Open Scars is a fantastic track. Temptation's Nest, I love that song, especially like that breakdown. It's kind of like a mid-pace riff, and then it starts to march as the drumming speeds up, but like just heavy, fantastic mosh pit stuff. It's absolutely brilliant. Yeah, and then it concludes with The Road to Devastation. So it's an appropriately heavy, catchy track to end. So yeah, 10 tracks on this, and I've named the majority of them actually. So there's no bad songs though. So just show you the cover here. Pretty cool, iconic booklet with all of the lyrics. But it's interesting that there's a picture of the band there. It's interesting that even though there is a lyric sheet and this is death metal with that guttural style, most of the time you can actually tell what the singer's saying as well. So that's always a bonus, like I've said, because the message is imparted properly. Yeah, so very good, catchy, melodic death metal, which is very hooky. So like I said, this album, but this band in general, is just good entry-level death metal for people who are looking to get into the genre, if you're not familiar, because it's not like a lot of other bands where there's a lot of like, it's extremely brutal or uncompromising or complex time changes like that. This is just solid and groovy. So that's KATAKLYSM with Into the Arms of Devastation. All right. So, by the way, I'll just show you the disc as well. So this one says for promotional sale only, because I bought it at a flea market over here in Thailand. And the other 2 albums I also did, so that's why you'll see that notice inscribed on the CD. Okay, so the next KATAKLYSM album that I'm going to talk about is Prevail. Yep, so these 3 albums that I'm talking about today by KATAKLYSM are all pretty much in the same style, but there are some subtle differences. So on this particular album, Prevail, in comparison to the Into the Arms of Devastation, this album is a lot less melodic and commercial sounding. Not that I think that the first one is, that one I just talked about is commercial, but it's just very catchy and the melodies are extremely infectious. On this one, it's not quite as melodic. This one's more brutal and extreme, but it balances extreme and catchy very well. Like on this one, the drumming's a lot faster. There's a lot more double bass drumming and blast beats. So it's like faster, more brutal and catchier, but at the same time they still have retained that melody, just not as much as on this album. Again, there are no bad tracks on this album, so I do like the whole album. About 10 tracks, I think, something like that. I haven't counted them, it doesn't matter. But probably my favorite tracks on this album are track 2, which is entitled Taking the World by Storm. That was one of the singles from this album. Like, it's just, again, brutal, heavy and catchy, so no wonder it'll just reel you in upon first listen. And track 3 is another favorite of mine, which is entitled The Chains of Power. Yeah, so that song, The Chains of Power, it's fast and aggressive with a lot of crazy blast beats as well as catchy riffs with the backdrop of industrial machinery. In addition to that, the pre-chorus has a very quirky melody and it's hypnotic and amazing. So this track really stands out, The Chains of Power. Another favorite track of mine is track 5, which is entitled Blood in Heaven, I think. That's slow, chugging and groovy, and but it speeds up and gets very hooky, and it has a very cool guitar solo. That's the thing I forgot to mention. This band, it doesn't have token guitar solos in every song, but like when it suits the song or adds color to the song, they have a guitar solo. And yeah, so the solo in that song is really good. So that track was entitled Blood in Heaven. And another favorite track of mine is To the Throne of Sorrow. That's track 6. That starts off very slow and very heavy, and then moves into some catchy and mid-pace riffs. So like it picks up the groove and you start nodding your head along, which is great. Another catchy song which I really like on this is track 7, which is Breathe to Dominate. Very iconic, anthemic sing-along chorus. But once again, no bad songs on this album. But yes, those would be my favorite. Tracks 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7. So they are Taking the World by Storm, The Chains of Power, Blood in Heaven, To the Throne of Sorrow, and Breathe to Dominate. But yes, really good album. And it's hard for me to say which one I like more out of these two. I like them both, so there you go. Here are the track listings. Front cover, which is kind of cool. Booklet with all of the lyrics showing the band members. Yeah, so no complaints again about this album. There's the disc as well. So yeah, it's that same kind of style, like catchy, heavy, melodic death metal, but like I said, it's a bit less melodic and more brutal, and it's more brutal than its predecessor. So that's another good KATAKLYSM album, Prevail. All right. So now we're coming up to the last KATAKLYSM album, which I own. And this one is entitled Heaven's Venom, which came out, I think I'm showing these in chronological order. I think this was 2010. So, you know, an album approximately every 2 years. Have a look at the back here. I hate this kind of track listing where they write it in a circle because, especially in this faded color and font, you can't read it for shit, which is kind of annoying. But that's a minor complaint because obviously it's ultimately about the music. But yeah, this is another good KATAKLYSM album. I won't repeat the same adjectives or keywords because you'll start to get very bored. But yes, essentially it is more of the same thing as described on the previous two albums. I have to admit, this one overall doesn't grab me as much as the previous two. I think Into the Arms of Devastation is easily the catchiest. Yeah, Prevail's more brutal. This one, it's still in the same kind of style, but there's just not as many songs which grab me. But having said that, it's by no means a bad album. I can listen to it the whole way through, and it's that standard KATAKLYSM sound. Now, my favorite songs on this, a couple of them. Oh yeah, so track 4, which was the single from this album, Push the Venom, that's got such a badass, heavy, groovy riff, and if you're not nodding your head along to that, there's something wrong with you. Absolutely brilliant, but it also features blast beats in the chorus and a very sort of catchy anthemic vocal pattern for Push the Venom. Yeah, it's so good. And that's what I like about this band, is the fact that they balance really catchy with really extreme. So it's not like, let me say this, it's a lot more exciting, even though it's groove-oriented death metal, it's a lot more exciting and less sleepy sounding than 6 Feet Under. It's far superior, in my opinion. No offense, but yeah, I think, yeah, this band's style, they've really captured something unique. But anyway, yeah, my favorite songs on this, apart from Push the Venom, what was the other one? Oh, At the Edge of the World. Yeah, like just single material again, in the sense that it's very catchy and memorable. So absolutely fantastic stuff. I won't go in and describe each song in detail because, like I said, it's more of the same thing. But yeah, not one of my favorites by KATAKLYSM, but still a very good album. Just show you the front here, which is very cool. Their cover art is unique as well. They have a certain style, I think. And inside you have all of the lyrics. Yeah, and to show you the disc, pretty cool. The Fanged Snake, because after all, Push the Venom. But yes, another good KATAKLYSM album. This is KATAKLYSM with Heaven's Venom. Yeah, so like I said, I only own 3 albums by KATAKLYSM. And to be honest, because these albums are all in the same style, in terms of newer ones, no offense, I don't feel the need to rush out and get all of those albums, because I think sometimes their albums can sound a bit samey, but trust me, they are very good and worth checking out if you haven't. So I would recommend all 3 of these albums, but probably in the chronological order that I showed them, in terms of my favorite to least favorite, but still a good album. And also, like I said, if you haven't heard it, check out the album Serenity and Fire from 2004. That was the one before this one. Serenity and Fire is my favorite KATAKLYSM album. Now, I would also like to go back to their 90s material and check out, you know, that Northern Hyperblast style. I just haven't got around to it yet. But yeah, let me know, what do you think of KATAKLYSM? What's your favorite album? All right, so next we're going into another band. So shifting gears now to some Norwegian black metal. This is KHOLD with Mørke Gravers Kammer. So to Norwegian or Scandinavian viewers, I apologize if my pronunciation's incorrect, but yeah, the Mørke, it's got the O through the slash with it, which I think is the Norwegian equivalent of the German umlaut over the O, so it's like that sound. So Mørke Gravers Kammer, which I'm not sure what it means. All of the lyrics on this album are in Norwegian. So this is an interesting album. You'll see here I picked it up at a sale for $12.95. This was back in the day where brand new CDs were $30. So I just thought, oh yeah, it looks like it's black metal. It's got Norwegian lyrics, so just randomly picked it up. It was kind of a blind buy. Now, don't be fooled. See on the back here, their image, especially these guys, they kind of look like, it looks like that Cold Chamber or Mudvayne aesthetic. But not that there's anything wrong with that, but like that's misleading because this band doesn't sound like those bands at all. This is old school Norwegian black metal, but with a very particular style. Most of the songs on this album are primarily mid-paced and it's groove-oriented black metal again. So again, just very catchy. You're nodding, you're tapping along. That's the pace for most of the album. So it's not overly fast, not overly slow, just groovy, catchy, and mid-paced, which is cool. And what I like about this is the guitar tone. It has that very typical Norwegian sound, which to me is very reminiscent of modern Mayhem, particularly like Grand Declaration of War onwards, you know, that sort of cold, clinical sound, and also featured among some avant-garde albums by bands such as Gorgoroth. Like if you like Gorgoroth's Insipid Satan, you might also enjoy this as well. So yeah, I would say it's got like the guitar tone of Mayhem, maybe the groove of modern Gorgoroth, but it also proudly displays influences from Darkthrone, you know, which is obviously an iconic band. So like, for example, the first track, which is entitled Ortselgrava, that starts off with this like a plodding slow beat and then the drums kicking like do 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 do, like, which is very reminiscent of Darkthrone's The Hordes of Nebula, and like even the riff style and everything. So I think that must be paying tribute on that song. But yeah, no bad tracks on this album. Like that opening track is fantastic. Yep, so another favorite track of mine on this is track 4, which is entitled Hevnerska. I think so, sorry, my Norwegian is no good. But yeah, that track, it's again very groovy and catchy, like groove oriented, and it's got this kind of stop-start rhythm, you know, where the guitars stop but the drumming continues. So it's that's a really catchy song as well. And also track 7, which I believe is called Opera Syria, that must be a tribute to Darkthrone again, because the main riff in that, even the guitar tone and everything, sounds like Darkthrone's track Cromlech from Soulside Journey. So that was when, of course, Darkthrone were a death metal band, but they're still paying tribute. So I think this band is heavily influenced by Darkthrone, but also incorporating elements of modern Norwegian black metal, you know, with references to Mayhem and Gorgoroth, like the post-2000 stuff. But yeah, yeah, this is good stuff, a satisfying listen. I don't put this one on that often, to be honest, because it's sort of like, you know, I have my favorite bands in this genre, but whenever it passes me by, I do put it on and enjoy it. It's not really anything you haven't heard before, but if you like those bands I mentioned, such as Darkthrone, especially the groovier, ploddier stuff, in addition to modern avant-garde Gorgoroth and post-2000 Mayhem, particularly with the guitar tone, you'll really like this. So here's the cover. So that's the main guy on the front and picture of the band on the back. Yep, like I said, don't be fooled by the Cold Chamber Mudvayne aesthetic. And all lyrics are in Norwegian. More pictures of the band. And also a picture disc here. Yep, so good stuff. Certainly not reinventing the wheel, but just good quality modern Norwegian black metal, taking influence from those iconic bands. So this is KHOLD with Mørkegraver's Kammer. Yeah, like I said, I'm not too good with foreign language pronunciation, but I always like having a go. All right, so now we're coming up to the last album of the day. This is probably one that doesn't need an introduction to most people. This is King Diamond with Them. So of course, King Diamond was the iconic vocalist of Merciful Fate, and I think, I'm not too familiar with the history because I'm not a die-hard fan of either bands, although I do really like them, still, that's still the case. But I think King Diamond, after he split with Merciful Fate, he formed this as his solo band. So it actually sounds in some ways very similar to Merciful Fate. So most people are probably familiar with Merciful Fate, one of the godfathers of second wave of black metal, but with Merciful Fate, it wasn't so much the sound, but more the image, because in terms of sound, it's sort of speed metal with a lot of guitar solos, and also King Diamond's trademark falsetto vocals, which are just completely unique. So on King Diamond, it's more of the same thing. So it's basically continuing that style with a different band after King Diamond left Merciful Fate. Although sometimes he performs under both. Sorry, as I'm not a die-hard fan, I didn't research this too much. But the reason why I bought this album, I was already a fan of Merciful Fate, and if you want to know what my favorite album is by Merciful Fate, it's undoubtedly Don't Break the Oath. That's a pure perfection. But yeah, I knew that King Diamond was a member of Merciful Fate, but I was enamored by this awesome cover art. I really like the use of color, especially, you know, just that bluish hue. It's awesome, and it just looks haunting, this ominous mansion, and even the title is like so simplistic yet mysterious, Them. So I bought this, and being completely honest with you, it doesn't grab me too much. Like, that's not to say it's bad. It's sort of, it's in the same style as Merciful Fate, and there's a lot of like chopping and changing in the songs. Like there's guitar solos and then like a flurry of other parts. So with this album, to me, no offense, but like the music often sounds a bit disjointed and messy, like it's trying to cram too much in and it's going in all kinds of directions. But having said that, like the playing is still really talented. There's great melodic guitar solos, the vocals are fantastic, the riffs are really good, but it's just, because of that description I gave, how it's disjointed, it's just not all that catchy to me, to be honest. So yeah, this album is more like some background music to me, really. But like, I will say this, like tracks 1 to 5 don't grab me much at all, but when the album really starts to get going for me is track 6, which is entitled Bye Bye Missy. Like that's the first standout track. And I also really like the following 2 tracks, A Broken Spell and The Accusation Chair. So the album, actually towards the end, the second half of the album is much better. Just the first half doesn't grab me that much. But yeah, by no means a bad album, but this is more background music. I think I prefer Merciful Fate to this album anyway, but I do really like the King Diamond song, The Trial, which was covered by Dark Funeral. So yeah, if you like Merciful Fate and you're looking for sort of like melodic speed metal that has a lot of twists and turns and goes in all sorts of directions with King Diamond's trademark falsetto vocals, you will enjoy this. So I hope I haven't committed heavy metal blasphemy in the bad way by saying that this doesn't grab me too much, but I'm just being honest. You'd rather me be honest than just say, yeah, it's great, everything's great. Like, what's the point of that? So yeah, here is the front cover. Like I said, this cover art is awesome. If I saw a poster of this, I'd probably buy it, even though I'm not the biggest fan of the album. Yeah, and of course, this is a concept album, I think. And again, because I'm not too into it, I didn't really research the story, but I think it's like about some deranged grandmother living with a family in this old mansion, something like that. But yeah, some of the tracks, that's what I was going to say, are very theatrical. Like you hear telephone calls and spoken word. So it's interesting. It's sort of got like a kind of gloomy hammer horror atmosphere. And for overall atmosphere, it is a good listen. Like I would put this on happily, you know, with it in the background. And there are a few standout tracks. So yeah, my favorites being Bye Bye Missy, A Broken Spell, The Accusation Chair, and Them. But pretty much the second half of the album is good for me. So that's King Diamond with Them. All right, so I hope I didn't upset people too much by saying I wasn't into that album, but like I said, I should be honest. But let me know, what do you guys think of King Diamond? Do you prefer King Diamond or Merciful Fate? And what are your favorite albums by those bands? Anyway, I've gone long enough for today. I've completed the 5 CDs that I'm going to talk about. I did a lot of babbling and I went off on tangents, so I will edit this in post, so it will be hopefully shorter than it's looking now. Yeah, that'll be a good thing. But yeah, as I said, I will be back again soon. The next video will definitely be about black metal vinyl, and after that, when I go back to my CDs, I'm going to do another chapter of ranking discographies by a very big band, which is one of my favorite bands. So I hope you can join me for that. So once again, guys, thank you for all of your support of the channel. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.